Random thoughts. In this video, I'm going to read parts of Richard Burton's book, First Steps in East Africa, Exploration of Harar. And this is a book that was published in 1850s. And this part is talking about the origins of Berbera. And remember, Berbera is the reason why Richard Burton was sent by the British as a spy to go to Harar. He was sent to collect information because Harar seemed to have been like the overall power in this region. And there's no way you could come to and try to take Berbera without antagonizing Harar. And so he was sent to go there. And he went as an Arab merchant. And the book is about his journey, actually. Now, at this point, he's gone to Harar. He's left Harar. He's come to Berbera. And he's in Berbera. And then he decides to tell us some bits of history about Berbera. And this is what he says about the history or what we can say the earliest stories that are told about Berbera. And he says, it is interesting to compare the earliest with the latest accounts of the great emporium of Eastern Africa. He describes Berbera as the great emporium of East Africa. Bartema, writing in the 16th century of Berbera and the island of Ethiopia, offers the following brief description. After that, the tempests were appeased. We gave wind to our sails and in short time arrived at an island named Berbera. The prince whereof is a Mohammedan. The island is not great, but fruitful and well peopled. It hath abundance of flesh. The inhabitants are of color inclining black. All their riches is in herds of cattle. So this is Bartema. And I've said in another video, I'll try to find documents by Bartema and read them. I've not read any of his documents, but I find him quoted a lot, especially by writers from 19th century. Seems like Bartema maybe came something maybe 14th to 13th, 14th century, or maybe earlier than that. I'll try to figure out, I'll try to look for his documents and do a little bit more research about him, because I'm seeing him being mentioned in so many places, and that is catching my attention. So this is what he said about that. If we are going to assume, of course, Richard Burton is writing this book in 1850s. So he's quoting Bartema, who maybe was 200 years before. And that tells you that Berbera is a port that has been around for a very, very long time. Then he continued to say, of the origin of Berbera, little is known. So we can't actually know when exactly, according to Richard Burton, we can never know exactly when the city or that site was started becoming a very important site for business. We'll never know for sure, but could be maybe over 500 years before he was on that land. So it's a very ancient port. He says, El Viruzabadi derives it with great probability from two Umayyad chiefs of southern Arabia. About AD 522, the troops of Anushirwan expelled the Abyssinians from Yemen and re-established their Ayamyari prince under vassalage of the Persian monarch. So there is this other writer he quotes, and he gives his name as El Virusabadi, who talks about how the Abyssinians being pushed out of Yemen to the Horn of Africa. And it's during that time that he's sort of insinuating that Berbera was founded. So we can put that as 522 AD. That's close to 1500 years ago. So it's a long, long time ago. And when he talks of the Abyssinians being pushed out of Yemen, this brings me to another book I read a while back. I think it's Maimonides' book, The Guide for the Perplexed, and it does talk about Maimonides lived about 1,000 years ago, and it does quote another book called The Nabatean Agriculture, a very ancient book that some people say there are rumors that the copies are found in some major, we can say museums, but they are kept in private, of course, rooms. And this book talks about the civilization of the Nabateans and the Sabaeans. Now, it's widely known that the Abyssinians are part of the larger Sabaean civilization. And the Sabaean civilization was mostly in what we know today as Yemen, at least going by whatever information we can get today. So this is very interesting for this other writer, El Virusabadi, and I'm guessing is a Persian. I might be wrong, but seems like this name could be maybe Persian name. that the Abyssinians were pushed out of Yemen, which we can say maybe the Sabaeans, maybe. Tradition asserts the port to have been occupied in turns by the Furs, the Arabs, the Turks, the Galas, and the Somal. So different groups of people have occupied that port over 1,000 years or 1,500 years. And he's talking about um, the Furs, who I don't know who these people are, and the Arabs and the Turks and the Galas, the Oromos, that is, and the Somali. And its future fortunes are likely to be as varied as the past. Of course, every like things have happened in the past, things will happen the same way in future. Yeah, I believe that as well. The present decadence of Berbera is caused by the petty internal feuds. Girhajis, the eldest son of Ishaq el-Hazrami, says the mountain ranges of Gulays and Wagar, lying about 40 miles behind the coast, whilst Awal, the cadet, established himself and his descendants upon the lowlands from Berbera to Zeila. Both these powerful tribes assert a claim to the customs and profits of the port on the grounds that they jointly conquered it from the Oromos. The Habr Awal, however, being in possession, will monopolize the right. A blood feud rages, and the commerce of the place suffers from the dissensions of the owners. So in the 1850s, there was, we can say, a dispute over the ownership of the port between two larger groups of people, two subclans, we can call them. And that could often cause actual violence. That seems like that's what used to happen. He continued to say, moreover, the Habri Awal tribe is not without internal feuds. Two kindred septs, the Ayal Yunis Nu and the Ayal Hamed Nu, established themselves originally at Berbera. The former, though the more numerous, admitted the latter for some years to a participation of profits, but when Aden, occupied by the British, rendered the trade valuable, they drove out the weaker sept and declared themselves sole abans to strangers during the fair. Even within the Habra Awal, there seemed to have been some misunderstanding and some conflict. And seems like these were two brothers, at least, of course, the ancestors were two brothers. And one of the brothers, maybe their descendants, of course, told the other brother, you are welcome to come and stay with us and be our, we can call, partners. And when they came, they lived together. But then at some point, the port became very valuable, and seems like is when the British took over Aden, then this port became very, very important, very critical, and it seems like there was a lot of commerce happening and a lot of money to be made. And of course, sometimes where a lot of money is made, even brothers will come to conflicts, and that's human nature. A war ensued. The sons of Yunis obtained aid of the Majarten tribe. The sons of Hamed called in the Habrigir Hajis, especially the Musa Ara clan, to which the Haj Shamarke belongs. Haj Shamarke was the governor of Zeila when Richard Barton was moving around this land, and with his assistance defeated and drove out the Ayal Yunis. These, flying from Berbera, settled at the haven of Bul Har, and by their old connection with the Indian and other foreign traders succeeded in drawing off a considerable amount of traffic. But the roadstead was insecure. Many vessels were lost, and in 1847, the Ese Somal slaughtered the women and children of the newcomers, compelling them to sue the Ayal Hamed for peace. Though the feud thus ended, the fact of it having had existence ensures bad blood. That's the short description about the origins and the history of Berbera that Richard Barton gives us. And of course, as I've said, he was a spy and he had been sent by the British to find ways that the British could capture this port. To the British, this port was so important. And in fact, eventually they ended up capturing it. And that's how Somaliland was founded. The British Somaliland was founded. It was founded through these efforts that we are seeing here. Those are my random thoughts.